how would you scale? So think of it this way. If you're trading the right stuff, like if you're trading crowd today and it moves 4%, you only need one contract and you can make a couple $100. And that most people that they want to come in here every day and be able to make what, a couple $100 a day minimum, right? So you really do not need that much if you're doing it correctly. I'm not sure, like when you say small account, what do you mean? Like when I hear small account, I think like $1,000 to $2,000. If you're saying like 500, you're gonna have to trade a little bit differently. Yeah, so like if you have $1,000, I'd say like $200 per option position would be fine, because at that point, if you lost, the biggest thing is if you're learning and you can't create winning positions, you don't know how to do it yet, then we don't want you to go in there and just get killed because you don't know how to do it. But once you can recognize how to do it, you can risk, like most people are like, don't risk more than 1% of your account. It's like, well, you can throw a couple $100 in one position and at most be risking 5%, like if you get a spread that hits you. But ideally, like if you're stopping out, a lot of my stops are even or very slight losses. So you don't have to be as small. But how would I manage it? If I'm at a $500 account, I'd be trading the Dow Jones stocks and I'd be trading options that are between like 100 and like ideally between like 50 and $100 at the max. Where you'd want to be is like when we were talking about something like AFRM, because those options are cheaper. Because you got to think, like the cheaper the option is, the less volatility you may get on that stock in dollar move, but you'll be able to take more trades and therefore you can stop out and keep your stops tight while still being able to capitalize on the movement. So if you stick to things like AFRM and Upstart and like KO and Keurig Dr. Pepper and Hurl, HRL, and Procter and Gamble, the things that don't move quite as hard, and they're normally the blue chips or just really big like staples companies or like airlines, cruise lines, like the things that aren't really going anywhere because everyone uses them. That's where you can trade those smaller options and do the same thing we're doing with stuff like crowd, but do it on the smaller things so you can trade more things. And you got to think, like if you go to American Airlines right now, so like right now it's obviously not the best trading, but 2 day back into a 3 on the week. So if this goes 1-1 to 1-4, it's 30 cents. So you can probably make like at least 50-60% on next week's contracts if it does that. And if it does do that, like right now, it's a T2 enforced pivot machine gun. I can do it right now. Once the 60 flip occurs, of course, in 2 minutes. But if it does do that, you only need like $100 in there, and you're maybe risking 5 cents a contract since they're so cheap. So you can buy like 5 of them, around 20 cents. And then if it works, good. If it doesn't, you can still do that same type of trade another 5 times in the same day until it works. The biggest thing people with small accounts do is they'll go in and then they'll be like, oh, Alex is watching crowd. And then they'll buy a 360 put. And it's like, well, that means if it drops to $361 before Friday, you lose money. And it opened this morning at 380. So like you're just way too far out. You have to drop the size of the thing you're trading and then build up from there. Because if you have $500 and you're trying to trade Morgan Stanley contracts that are trading 180, 200, if you stop out of that, you're done for the day. And now maybe you got slippage, you took a $70 loss on your $500 account, and that's over 10%, 20%. So that's a problem. But if you shrink the stocks down, create the winning positions, let the ones work, you don't need a lot. You can make it go really quick. When would you start thinking of sizing up? Like if you need a specific rule to do that, you could say like, if I stop out, I'm risking 3% of my account or something on my stop outs. So once that size increases and you're like, well, if I stop out for $100, that's 3%. Then you can go and trade the Tesla contracts, or you could trade like maybe not Chipotle yet, but you could trade like MasterCard and Visa and Morgan Stanley and Citigroup. But even then, like when I'm stopping out of those, I'm 20 cents maybe. What like the biggest thing you don't want to do is you don't want to go in there and just look at cheap options contracts and be like, well, if it moves 17% by next week Friday, I can make 1,000% on this 5 cent contract that I'm risking like X amount. It's like, no, 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 don't do that. You want to say, if this goes to magnitude, am I in the money? And then how much would I make? Or what intrinsic value would it be at? Like this morning, I used the crowd 370. Like that's pretty far out of the money, but I was like, well, if this goes to the daily pivot target and takes the next one out at 374, it'll move. It'll probably go 60%. And then if it goes where we're looking for, 367.1, which looks like they're starting to recover a little bit before hitting that out, then it's $3 in the money, and like then you're rolling in it.